Sick of crawling under your car, wrestling with stripped drain plugs, and cleaning up massive oil spills on your garage floor? What if I told you that you could completely change your oil in your driveway without ever lifting your vehicle or getting your hands dirty? Stick around as we count down the top 7 oil extractors on the market, leading up to the absolute best one that will permanently change how you maintain your vehicles. 7. ExtreSpo Fluid Extractor. At first glance, this is a syringe-style manual fluid extractor designed for small, precise jobs around the garage. It features a transparent, plastic cylindrical body that holds a maximum of 500 cc of fluid, making it look much like an oversized medical syringe. The concept is incredibly basic. You attach a thin plastic hose to the nozzle, insert it into a fluid reservoir, and pull back on the rear T-handle to draw the liquid up into the main chamber. When we tested this unit, the transparent body was admittedly quite helpful for visually inspecting the color and volume of the fluid we were pulling. We used it to remove some dark, burned power steering fluid from an older sedan before putting in fresh fluid. It managed to get the job done, and being able to hold the entire unit in one hand while maneuvering the hose with the other made navigating the tight engine bay relatively straightforward. However, the major issue with the ExtreSpo becomes glaringly obvious the moment you try to use it for anything substantial. With a maximum capacity of only 500 cc, it is entirely useless for a standard car engine oil change. You would find yourself pumping, detaching the hose, emptying the syringe, and reattaching it over a dozen times just to empty a standard 4-cylinder engine. It transforms what should be a clean, time-saving process into a tedious, highly messy chore, as oil inevitably drips from the nozzle during every single transfer. Furthermore, the overall build quality leaves a lot to be desired. The plastic construction feels quite thin and cheap in the hands, and the internal rubber seals don't inspire much confidence. When we tried extracting thicker, colder deer oil, the suction required an immense amount of physical force on the handle, and it constantly felt as though the internal plunger seals were going to flip backwards or blow out under the heavy pressure. 6. PLUMIA 12V Oil Extractor Pump. This unit takes a completely different mechanical approach by ditching the manual pumping entirely and using an electric motor. Powered directly from your vehicle's 12-volt battery, the idea is that you simply hook up the included red and black alligator clips to your battery terminals, route your inlet and outlet hoses, and flip a switch to let the internal motor do all the heavy lifting for you. This sounds like an absolute dream for anyone who hates manual labor. We set it up on a small commuter car, hoping the electric motor would make the extraction process completely effortless. The pump itself is incredibly compact and lightweight, making it incredibly easy to store in a small toolbox, the corner of a trunk, or on a crowded garage shelf. The initial setup process is also relatively straightforward, and not having to pump a handle seemed like a huge win. Unfortunately, the reality of using the PLUMIA 12V quickly fell short of our high expectations. The flow rate provided by the small electric motor is incredibly sluggish, especially if your engine oil isn't at the absolute perfect optimal temperature. If the oil is too cold and thick, the internal pump struggles mightily, whining loudly while barely pulling a trickle through the lines. Conversely, if the oil is too hot directly after a long drive, you risk overheating and permanently damaging the internal components of the cheap plastic pump housing. Another massive frustration we encountered during testing is the sheer noise and vibration. For such a tiny, compact unit, it is unpleasantly loud, vibrating aggressively and aggressively dancing across whatever flat surface you set it on. Furthermore, the included plastic hoses are quite stiff and heavily prone to kinking. 5. 4 Uncle's 6L Manual Vacuum Oil Extractor. This is where we start seeing equipment specifically designed and engineered to handle full automotive oil changes with absolute ease. It features a sturdy, upright 6-liter plastic reservoir that is perfectly sized to hold the entire oil capacity of most standard 4-cylinder and even some larger 6-cylinder passenger vehicles. Using this extractor is a purely manual affair, but it is surprisingly efficient and well designed. To operate it, you simply insert the long extraction tube all the way down the engine's dipstick tube until it touches the bottom of the oil pan. Give the large top handle a few vigorous pumps to build up a negative vacuum and sit back to watch the dark oil steadily flow up the line. We tested this on a mid-sized crossover SUV and were incredibly impressed by how quickly the initial suction pulled the warm oil right out of the engine. The build quality on the Four Uncles unit is a massive and noticeable step up from our previous entries. The Plastim tank feels thick, rigid, and durable, easily capable of withstanding the intense internal negative pressure without any worrying flexing, groaning, or cracking. It also features a highly visible, clearly marked measuring scale molded directly into the side of the tank, allowing you to accurately track exactly how many quarts of fluid you've successfully removed from the crankcase. One of the absolute best aspects of this specific Four Uncles model is its ultimate portability. Because it relies entirely on human power and doesn't require a loud air compressor or a nearby electrical outlet, you can use it absolutely anywhere your vehicle happens to be parked. 4. DURATECH 500cc Fluid Extractor. Now, you might be scratching your head wondering why a 500cc syringe-style extractor is beating out a massive 6-liter tank. The answer lies in its absolute premium, uncompromising build quality and its sheer unmatched versatility for the myriad of other complex fluid exchange jobs around your vehicle that larger tanks simply cannot handle. When we got our hands on the DURATECH during testing, the vast difference in engineering quality compared to cheaper syringe models like our number 7 pick was immediately apparent. It features a robust, heavy-duty construction, utilizing dual thick rubber O-ring seals inside the main plunger assembly. This professional-grade engineering ensures a perfectly tight, incredibly powerful vacuum that doesn't leak or lose an ounce of pressure, even when we tasked it with pulling out heavy, freezing cold 75W90 gear oil. The transparent cylindrical body is crystal clear and manufactured from heavy plastics highly resistant to chemical clouding or etching, allowing for years of precise fluid inspection. We primarily use this tool to drain and carefully refill a manual transmission from underneath the car. The smooth, predictable action of the plunger handle made pushing fresh, thick fluid vertically back into the tight, awkward transmission fill hole an absolute breeze. It also includes excellent secure locking connectors that absolutely guarantee the hoses won't unexpectedly blow off under high pressure, saving you from a disastrous fluid shower. The DURATECH also includes a highly flexible extended tube, making it incredibly easy to reach deep into cramped power steering reservoirs, awkward brake master cylinders, or tricky rear differential housings. While it clearly isn't meant for doing a full 5-quart engine oil change due to its smaller volume, it is hands down the absolute best tool on the market for literally every other fluid evacuation and transfer task in your garage. 3 Four Uncles 6.5L Pneumatic and Manual Oil Extractor. This impressive unit takes everything we loved about the purely manual version at number 5 and significantly upgrades it with dual-mode functionality and a slightly larger, more accommodating fluid capacity. It is specifically designed for the serious DIYer or professional who wants the blistering speed of shop air, but demands the reliable backup of a manual pump. The dual-mode extraction feature is the absolute star of the show here. When we connected it to our shop's standard air compressor, using the included brass pneumatic quick fitting, the extraction process became entirely hands-free and aggressively fast. You simply turn the top air valve, and the internal Venturi effect creates a massive sustained vacuum in seconds. It completely drained a 5-liter oil pan in a matter of just a few short minutes, leaving us completely free to prep the new oil filter and gather our supplies while the machine did all the work. But what happens if you are working away from your barrage air compressor, or if the compressor happens to break down? That's exactly where the manual pump handle comes in to save the day. We rigorously tested the manual pump right after our pneumatic test, and it proved to be just as reliable, robust, and effective as the purely manual model. The transition between the two modes is utterly seamless, making it an incredibly versatile, go-anywhere tool for both professional shop environments and remote mobile mechanics. The generous 6.5-liter capacity hits the absolute perfect sweet spot for a vast majority of passenger cars and light trucks, ensuring you will never have to stop your workflow to empty the unit halfway through a standard oil change. 2. EWK 6.5L Pneumatic and Manual Oil Extractor at number 2. EWK is a highly respected, heavily trusted name in specialized automotive tools, and this fantastic extractor is a prime example of why professionals love them. It shares a very similar, highly versatile dual-mode design with our number 3 pick, but it executes the concept with a level of premium refinement and long-lasting durability that pushes it slightly ahead of the competition. Right out of the sturdy box, the EWK simply feels like a professional-grade piece of shop equipment. The main plastic fluid reservoir is exceptionally thick and heavy, and all the various air valves, pump handles, and connection points feel incredibly solid and secure. We hooked it up to our shop airline, and the raw extraction speed was nothing short of phenomenal. It aggressively pulled out every single last drop of old, viscous, high-mileage oil from a neglected engine remarkably quickly and cleanly. One of our absolute favorite standout features on the EWK is its cleverly designed, dedicated pouring spout. Once you have successfully extracted all the waste oil, carefully emptying the heavy sloshing tank into a recycling jug can often turn into a messy secondary chore. However, EWK thoughtfully includes a specific, splash-free pouring lip right at the top that makes transferring the old oil into a transport container a smooth, precise, and entirely mess-free experience. The included set of nylon extraction tubes are incredibly well engineered. They are flexible enough to navigate tight bends, yet remain rigid enough that they will absolutely not collapse in on themselves under the intense vacuum pressure. They easily snake down the complicated twists and turns of a difficult dipstick tube without ever getting bound up or stuck. 1. OEMTOOLS 243089 Oil Extractor. Sometimes, the absolute best tool in the garage isn't the one loaded with the most flashy bells and whistles, but rather the one that performs its single core function flawlessly, year after demanding year, without ever failing. This manually operated, 5.3-liter extractor is the heavyweight champion of pure reliability, unyielding power, and brilliant simplicity. When we put the OEMTOOLS extractor through its rigorous paces, the sheer brute force efficiency of its single-piece manual pump was genuinely staggering. It features an oversized, heavily reinforced pump housing that moves a massive volume of air out of the tank with each individual stroke. In our testing, it only took about 4 to 5 easy pumps of the handle to create a vacuum so powerful that it effortlessly sucked out over 5 liters of heavy engine oil without ever needing to be pumped a second time. What truly sets this specific model apart from every other extractor on the market is its rugged, virtually bomb-proof construction. The one-piece, thickly molded plastic reservoir is practically indestructible, specifically designed to survive being accidentally kicked around a busy shop floor or rattling endlessly in the unpadded back of a rough service truck. It purposely doesn't rely on delicate internal air valves, complex dual-mode switches, or complicated rubber seals that can degrade and fail over time. It is pure, robust, mechanical efficiency at its finest. The OEMTOOLS 243089 also features an incredibly clever, highly dependable auto shutoff mechanism integrated directly into the top pump assembly. As the dirty oil level rapidly rises near the tank's maximum 5.3-liter capacity, the internal float positively engages and completely stops the vacuum flow dead in its tracks, making a messy overflow accident virtually impossible.